You've got big projects to tackle, but your day gets swallowed up by repetitive tasks and constant inquiries. It's hard to make progress when you're stuck putting out fires. That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. Acting like an extra set of hands, you get your time back for the high-impact projects. Ready to reclaim your time? Visit element451.com/AI team to learn more.
Welcome to the Hired Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell, Community Engagement Lead at Pathify. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. The Hired Geek Podcast is a proud member of the Enrollify Podcast Network, a robust collection of shows designed to help higher education professionals like you grow every day. Explore all of our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another wonderful episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast. We are here with somebody I've known for a long time. We worked together briefly at one of my first ed tech jobs, and we've just kind of kept in touch ever since. It's been a really nice kind of connection to have, and we've kind of supported each other from afar over LinkedIn and those sort of things. And it's always a treat to have somebody that I kind of have more of like a personal and professional relationship with, versus like I meet a lot of cool people through doing this, and that's awesome. But it's also like I know a lot of cool people too, so it's like we'll just kind of like talk to my friends. So we are here with Tara Gilboa. You do a lot of cool things. We'll get to all that. So I'll let you kind of just briefly introduce yourself, and then we're going to kind of break down a lot of the stuff that you're involved in, and then kind of go from there.
Sounds great, Dustin. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you as always. And happy Friday. So my background is education. I have almost a decade experience in K-12, higher ed, both as a classroom teacher. I had students or at least one classroom, and students who called me their teacher for 8 years straight, focused on world languages. And then I worked in higher education. We met at Noodle Partners at the EdTech startup that I found on Twitter when there were fewer than 30 employees. And I said, hey, this is a really good idea for a number of reasons. And was always interested in entrepreneurship and education. Ended up actually working at a venture capital firm out in LA. And I'm now back in Colorado, involved in everything Pathways work for our state.
Yeah, and I guess to sort of segue to my next question, because like so much of what you do currently, when I was sort of like, kind of just generating like obviously like kind of a path that we can deviate from, at least for some questions that kind of guide us here, is like realizing that so much of what you're doing now is so like locally focused. So I guess I'm curious to sort of like to kind of put the kind of connection here of just sort of generally your professional background and the things you've been involved in education, and now you're doing so much locally, and you're in Colorado. I guess like what brought you back, and sort of that part of the story, and then I guess just talk to me about having such a local focus, because I feel like I talk with so many people, for better or worse, where they're speaking on sort of a international scale, perhaps, or at least national, and sort of just really 30,000 feet view things. But I feel like you're so like right there on the ground, working where your feet are, kind of thing. So I guess just talk to me about that journey, I guess, to kind of that brings you to be doing the things that you're doing on a very local scale.
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. I think there's a couple things that come to mind. First is all of us Coloradans were pretty diehard. It's such an incredible community, and it's just really a pleasure and honor to get to focus on your own backyard in your community and have really specific constraints that eventually can be applicable on a much more, scalable level. But it's where my heart is. This is my home. My family's here. My people are here. This is where I grew professionally as an educator and worked at 2 different universities in their teaching and learning centers. Oh no, 3. And I also was an adjunct at another one. And I think there is just so much energy and positivity right now of people coming together to really figure out how to better interweave the education and employer ecosystem. And it's exciting and an honor to be a part of it. And there is a lot of value in getting just focused on a sliver of what some of these greater problems might look like on a bigger scale. And so far, so good.
Yeah, I guess that's the idea. I know it's, Colorado is one of those states I think people are very proud to be from and to live in and all that. And I think I mean, you've done such a wide variety of things, and knowing that especially in this moment, that sort of kind of diversity of experience and sort of knowing that the collaboration of all those various stakeholders is really kind of what this moment I think is demanding to kind of drive better outcomes for students and everything. But being able to see the impact more directly is so powerful. And I think folks maybe kind of overlook that, or just want to know sort of well, I reached to the most number of students, it's just about scale. And it's yeah, you want to obviously even on a local level, relative to where you are, be supporting as many students and things as possible. But I don't know. It's making me think of even something all the way back from grad school, that they were encouraging us to kind of just maybe try to understand where our value set is of do you want to be that sort of local leader, really locally invested, or do you want to be kind of the cosmopolitan, going to national conferences and doing all that? And you can maybe kind of ebb and flow, and everything being on a spectrum, you're not making a choice and stuck with it forever. But that, those are really fairly distinct paths, and I don't think we give enough credit, I think, to the folks who are doing a lot of the more locally focused work. And I think it is kind of a point of pride and a point of kind of kudos, I guess, for you, of kind of taking a different path than I feel a lot of the other folks that I often talk to. So
totally. I think coming out of the pandemic, where so much shifted both in our personal lives, professionally, and all of our different ecosystems we're part of, there was a real clear need, especially when it comes to talent and hiring and learning, to take a pause and look in our own backyard and say, okay, how much of this remote Zoom life is our main focus in how we build our companies and how we hire, and what are our real philosophies here? What are our talent strategies? And it's interesting, kind of some of the repercussions of, maybe not repercussions, but how people have gone in different directions with different strategies and made different decisions based on how their companies were impacted or what types of teams they want to build. But I do think, regardless of it, just from the pandemic, but in general, there's becoming such a disconnect between both educational programs and the actual skills needed, right? I mean, I'm sure you've talked about this only a million times on your podcast and with different members of Future of Higher Ed, but the integration of industry and community and education is just ready for a rehaul. So I think it's something you can't look away from anymore. I think it's really fun as a call to action, and it's very ripe for innovation and disruption. So that's also fun.
Yeah, well, and I guess just before we get too far, 'cause I think that was sort of trying to introduce you to people, because I feel that feels very emblematic of the work that you care about and the way that you go about it and all that. So I guess just to make sure we give it its fair share of the spotlight here, what are you working on currently, just to kind of enlighten folks to your current endeavors?
Absolutely. I am currently leading the Tech Talent Partnership, which is an initiative supported by the Opportunity Now grant. Activate Work is a local nonprofit that received this grant and stood up this partnership in Q4-ish of 2023. The steering committee is a number of impactful executives across the state, led by Helen Young Hayes, who's also the CEO of Activate Work. And they also brought together an incredible group of task force education leaders from 3 different school districts, the community college system, a number of higher education partners, to really work towards streamlined pathways for cybersecurity and operations technology roles. And the reason for this is this sector has some of the highest potential for economic mobility for learners and Coloradans, and at the same time has some of the highest need and highest growth roles and areas within business right now. And so it's kind of this huge supply and demand conundrum. And it's not that our educational programs aren't aligned. There are just gaps here and there and a huge need for so much more work-based learning to fill those gaps. And we haven't had a really great solution in the past for not just managing talent pipeline management and understanding supply and demand and how we better align and connect the dots, but doing it through an employer lens that makes it really easy, that makes it really just like the click of a button, that makes it just obvious for learners what it means to take these paths. We know we have backgrounds in learner support and coaching and instructional design and what it means to have a really aligned curriculum. But can we really verify that at the end of this journey, there's a job waiting for you from these specific companies? How do we get better at that? How do we integrate even more deeply? How do we engineer this workforce engine to grow our companies while specifically giving learners accurate information about what's going to be at the end of this journey? So it's really meaningful. I was just at Colorado Technology Association's Women in Technology conference yesterday. 600 people on a gorgeous ranch, and it was a huge tech conference, and the speakers were insane. I was like, where am I going? What is this going to be about? I'm so grateful I got to go. And everyone, there's just like such a sense of alignment of this matters. And this is the time to like roll up our sleeves and have an impact that's going to like ripple bigger than just our individual companies, but collectively. And we talk about building the talent pool in cyber and IT. But I also think we're building a moat here in Colorado, right? Amongst our companies. So call it a pool, call it a moat. I think it's both. And yeah, the possibility of what that impact looks like could be relatively insane if we're successful. So
yeah, it does feel like it is this moment where like the stars and the planets and everything is aligning, where like everybody kind of gets it of like, okay, this is important to do, for all of the various kind of constituents and everything. And it really is that idea of like, how do we make it as easy as possible? How do we like really kind of make those connections tighter between companies and institutions and learners and everything? And I guess like it's like a clarifying question, because I'm curious with, having such a local focus. And I think it makes a lot of aspects of this easier of like, if it is somebody who wants to be able to, get work-based learning opportunities or just, whatever shape it might take, like there's going to be those physical spaces that they can go to versus just sort of virtually. That idea of like, online learning and like that sort of environment like that we both kind of have a lot of experience in, versus like, working in an office or getting those sort of like experiences. Like, do you see that that's sort of like the best of both worlds that you're striving towards? Or like, because I think that is the idea, again, just with sort of drawing a contrast of what you're doing of like it being so locally focused, is that like so much I think of the air has been sucked out of the room with like, online education is the future and like everything. And, it's going to be maybe like the sole focus of people as they're like, kind of trying to build up new parts of their strategy and everything as an institution. So I guess just your take, I guess, just quickly, I guess, on sort of like, how do you see online education fitting in with like what you're doing, which is so kind of locally focused?
Such a great question, because I think you're also bringing up some implicit frameworks in education for how we think about what is our purpose of scaling and quality and so many other things packed into that. I love it. Yes, there's of course a place for both and they work together. And so the broader question is, how do we view a pathway, assess its quality against the specific job that's critical? And as we know in the program design process, especially at a higher ed institution level, sorry, that's my dog in the background. In order to get to like a high quality of rigor, there's a lot that goes into it, right? Especially to align it and produce it and launch an incredible virtual program, especially if it's a multi-year program. When we're talking about cyber, we're talking about IT, we're talking about roles that need on the job training, and really you need to be on the SOC and be on the red team, blue team, get that hands-on experience in it, in an environment that as soon as an employer picks you up, all the competencies have been verified by the former manager and whoever's running that. So yes, you can embed that into a degree. And I think the credits should absolutely count towards a degree. It's a question of where do the pieces exist and how do we sew them together? So I think in the past, we used to really think about, okay, anything at all is embedded into the program rather than what exists in our ecosystem environment and how do we thread them together in order to streamline. And that's kind of a new approach to learning design in a way. It's taking hard skills, soft skills, certs, and work-based learning as your 4 ingredients for what you're cooking. And rather than everything having to be in one part of the ecosystem, you together find out where are those quality ingredients and you sew them together. And that's the pathway. The pathway is not the program.
Hey folks, Dustin here. Element 451 is hosting the AI Engage Summit on October 29th and 30th. This free virtual event features many of your favorite Enrollify creators and will explore AI's impact on student engagement, enrollment marketing, and institutional success. Learn how to tap into the power of AI to turn data into actionable insights, utilize predictive analytics, and monitor and support student performance. Plus, hear directly from current students on how AI is influencing their engagement in campus life. The AI Engage Summit is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your school. Registration is free. Just visit element451.com to save your spot. Now, back to the show. Right. I guess if I kind of clarify or affirm what I'm hearing is the modality does not matter as much as like those ingredients. Like you could source those ingredients with an in-person program, fully online, hybrid, those sort of things. Yeah. Because I think that is like, I think with sort of our professional upbringing, like that sort of like migration or shift is, I think that what we were sort of seeing and experiencing and trying to at least start to like plant some of those seeds or just kind of talk about that with people and everything, which I was definitely like very pleased to see and glad. I think that there's I guess more of that happening where it's just like, we just have our MBA program. Like if you want to do that fully in person, fully online, a little bit of both, like go, choose your own adventure, like, more power to you kind of thing. So I think that's like a, definitely going to be a trend line that, like, especially even just in the way that you're working, where it's like you could understand if the leaders that were implementing that initiative were just like, oh, we're so hyper local, in our focus, like we should just try to do as much in person as possible and have kind of just a general open mindedness about the sort of modality of the learning, but knowing, like those ingredients that you want to kind of throw into the mix. So I guess just then, with all that we've discussed, I guess like to sort of like put a fine point on it, like what makes this work resonate with you? I guess it sounds like, I guess maybe just sort of obviously it being in Colorado, being this really, local initiative is part of it, but also like there's obviously there's so much complexity and like you've always been kind of drawn towards like entrepreneurial kind of things. So I guess just like, is it like the building aspect or is it like, I don't know, just tell me a little bit more, I guess, about like what the work that you're doing now, like what makes it resonate with you so much?
For sure. There are so many different things. The first thing that comes to mind is it feels like a true opportunity to be of service. And the economic impact for Coloradans is real. And timing. The timing feels so good. And when those 3 things come together, it seems a little rare, maybe, at least in my experience thus far. And so pieces always shuffle, things fall where they may, but it's super exciting to push something forward every day when you have such a runway and you have timing and things are just coming together. And it's not just the learners who you get to interview and they're in these companies and their lives have completely changed, but then the managers and the employers saying, actually, this is accidentally, this wasn't even part of the ROI. It's just a bonus. It's helping upskill my managers and retaining them. And that wasn't even part of the original plan. And so I also think just as a state across lots of different sectors, the way we go about creating pathways and the interoperability, that's what's shifting. And to get to be part of that and bring some learning design expertise to how we play well together is also really fun and empowering. And another passion of mine, of course, is building tech. And I have a great colleague and friend, Kayvon, who was recently on the podcast. And I just am bullish on his product and what he's building and how it can serve us. And actually, to answer your question, I think I'm also pretty jazzed right now because originally when I was an educator, I was always curious and very frustrated actually about the fact that a lot of tech wasn't being designed in service of our needs. It's that old phrase of build with, not for. And so it seems like there's this moment where we can really lean in and do that and kind of bring together employers and educators in a unique way. And it frustrated me for years. And now I finally get to make it happen. That feels like a gift.
Yeah, I think, like work like that, that you're doing is like inherently collaborative by design, like it is really doing that versus it feeling like maybe transactional or,
right.
Like you built something and you're trying to find a fit for it or something, shop it around, sell it and that sort of thing. But I mean, I think it's kind of the idea where like, it's kind of this like larger kind of gamble when like you're a little bit too early if you're like before your time trying to do something like that, like, and certain people, it's like, you can get some pretty amazing, acclaim and praise and prestige by being the person who could really see way, way into the future. But you like took a huge risk to do that. And the idea of like, this is important work. This is innovative work. This is, kind of paradigm shifting, but it is that idea of like, it's nice when it's like a little bit easier when like the stars align and everybody's sort of like agreeing that this needs to be done, but they're like, we need help to do it, but we want to be a part of helping to find that solution and all that. And I guess just kind of in a similar vein, flipping towards like the learners and everything you've spoken about, like kind of the, interviewing folks and seeing kind of the outcomes, the impacts and everything, like just to like affirm that, what makes this work so important for like the learners that you're serving? Like what kind of tell that story a little bit, I guess, of like, because obviously I think for any educator, that's always going to be that kind of North Star. It's like the work we're doing is important to be, making an impact. Like how is it impacting, I guess, the learners that you're serving?
I'm so hopeful it'll be impactful in many ways through starting K-12. There is such a huge drop-off of women in cyber and IT once they hit college or any post-secondary journey. I am so hopeful to see a huge shift where we're able to lean in with Adams 12 and Jeffco and DPS and really support underrepresented learners to see themselves in these careers and be open to, okay, here is an AA path for that. Here's the BA. I'm ready to take that journey. Or you know what? I want to do an apprenticeship when I graduate, get paid to do this job, and then transfer those credits and then go complete my BA. It's like rewriting the story of the post-secondary experience and making it more empowering for those learners because that's actually more equitable for who we're trying to serve. And not only that, but then the long-term play for the employers is not the spray and pray coaching, build your talent, improve your ROI, right? And build with, not for. And then I think for learners in the community college system, having direct access to apprenticeships, to employers, to more work-based learning, and you're less likely to get stuck in the searching for the job for so long post-graduation. It's that never-ending cycle of, needing 1 to 3 years experience, however much is required, but programs not inherently having that well integrated. Plug and play, puzzle pieces, working across the landscape. It's honestly very Noodle Partners-esque, but that's a different analogy story. And similarly for higher ed, right? It's really hard to retain all of your students, and it's really hard to get learners into programs. The costs are high. We know this. We've been behind the wheel on what the marketing costs are per seat. So it's almost like by playing in this way, you are helping learners potentially get a BA who never even thought that would be for them, right? They're just not doing it in that traditional first year, second year, third, fourth scope and sequence. You're doing it in a way where they can put food on the table, getting paid for the job that they want to be in professionally, rather than hustling around trying 2 or 3 jobs while being in school, but the jobs aren't even related to the work you want to be doing in the future. It's just like, we want this for human beings in our communities. It's just nonpartisan. It's just what Switzerland does in other countries. It's healthy. It's really relaxing to get to work on something across so many different partnerships where in some beautiful way, it turns out to be a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's a very modern approach to just, like the whole kind of learning ecosystem, like working to learn, learning to work, and kind of, kind of integrating those. But like, I think it is like, I appreciate that you're kind of outlining where it's like, hey, you want to get a associates, like, because it's as if you know where you want to end up. It's like just articulating like, hey, well, you can get associates, you can do about, and like the idea that you're like normalizing the diversity of options versus like just that we've kind of put the bachelor's degree on a pedestal for so long, and it's like there's obviously a value in that credential, but like breaking down and kind of eroding that it's like, well, that's the only one way, and like you said, you have to like study full time for 4 years and then like hope and pray you've got something good on the other end in terms of like a gainfully employing career or whatever. If we could just try to erode that as like the only tried and true way, and also like you said, like really design from the beginning an acknowledgement and an integration and sort of a symbiosis of like working to learn, learning to work, and all that. So it's like like you said, like people can put food on their table and get relevant experience and start to even know where it's like, well, I know I want to work in cyber, but I'd rather work for like a big public company or a smaller local. Like you can start to like refine that versus like, I've never worked professionally in cybersecurity, but I got my 4-year degree and I'm job searching and I'm going to hope that this place is like a good fit. Like, but I've never had any meaningful exposure. It's like, hopefully maybe I had like an internship or something. But even that, where it's like, you're putting the onus entirely on the student to find that and also compete with everybody else trying to like dogpile on the very few internship availability that's out there, where it's just like it's up to the employers to be feeling generous or kind of organize that. But it's like that does just sort of happen because it's like if you don't have to like kind of operate from a mindset of sort of like scarcity or or just not be gainfully employed, or I don't know, it's just like everything starts to kind of
Click.
just click and be better. So I think it is like really meaningful, important, necessary work. And as much as it is that like idea of everybody kind of being on the same page now, that enables this work to happen a little bit easier, kind of build those structures and processes and everything, like it is still like very innovative. It is still breaking down paradigms. It really is like setting a new standard and everything. So I do appreciate folks like yourself that are committing to doing this work. And given that it is it's complex and nuanced and everything, and I'm sure it can have its hard moments and all that. What keeps you excited? What keeps you motivated? Like, what are you looking forward to with your work as we, wind down 2024, look ahead to next year? What's got you excited for your work?
A number of different things. First is who I get to work with. The Activate work team is so lovely. Shout out to Catherine. She's the best boss I've ever had. She's amazing. And the ecosystem, it's the people. We all do it for the people if we're in this work. So I look forward to who I get to continue to collaborate with for sure. And what you were just sharing really was making me think of kind of like Kathy Hansen and Melora and the paradigm USC really set up for instructional design, which is why John originally partnered with them. And I almost feel like we're in almost a paradigm shift. Call it learning experience design, human-centered, all these different theories and pedagogies that were the basis for how we do quality education. And it's almost like we're bringing it to through this different lens where in order to be great solution architects, and solution architecture is specifically a concept created by Megan Sullivan, who runs Sync Up Colorado. And she has this beautiful framework for anybody who's an intermediary or has an intermediary role between employers and education providers. Solution architecture is when you pave a new program or you pave a new pathway. And for me, a pathway is a set of stackable learning experiences, potentially across a variety of programs that includes the right amount of work-based learning, hard skills, soft skills, and credentialing that can not only get you a job, it gets you a job that exists because it's aligned to that pathway with a score, and employer has pre-committed to wanting to hire from that pathway. And the job exists. So for me, I think we say pathway a lot. I think we say program design a lot. I think it hasn't been scalable or evergreen or worked for us because it's that age old, to do the quality instructional design takes time, right? And our program level outcomes that trickle down into the course and then the activity level outcomes aren't actually synced with the skills and competency insights that employers are getting to create the JDs, which are now going to be powered by AI and market trends. So once we finally connect that thread, I think we're going to be in a new paradigm, and the impact on learners is going to be clarity and real choices they make that lead to expected outcomes. And we're going to be able to kill this nightmare of we have learners graduating and they're stuck in the apply, and they're not getting what they expected or what they felt sold. And we all want that. I don't want that. Learners want that. Educators want that. That's why we all ended up in this field. And I think it's also why AI should work for us, right? I was at the Techstars Workforce Development Accelerator last night. Holy smokes, those founders were insane. Check out the pitches on YouTube. Highly recommend. But it's like, yeah, the time is now. And I'm both excited for like the future of the right people in the right place coming together to move these solutions forward. And then people's like lived experiences in a capitalistic society being healthy. That feels like re-energizing.
Yeah. I mean, I think just the, how you design like a curriculum and having there be less of a gap or space between that and like, the job descriptions and the skills and like those sort of things. Like, it's just like we've been ships passing in the night for far too long, and now
It's done manually.
Like, the threads together now. Yeah.
Google Docs, like, no, we're moving past that. We're using technology to do all of this moving forward. It's the only way it's going to be evergreen and scalable. And we're going to empower ourselves and make it super simple. This can be simple. We can make an easy button.
Yeah.
We really don't have a choice.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah. That's definitely like the excitement, the passion, the sort of potential. Definitely is a lot of motivating energy and forces there that I can imagine is keeping you inspired to wake up every day and do this good work. We'll definitely have ways for you, for anybody listening, to connect with Tara, and we'll have information about just the work you're doing if folks want to check it out and just learn more. But just thank you so much for all that you do, for taking the time out to hang out and share all that you did. So, appreciate it.
The Hired Geek Podcast is a part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances you like all the other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing constantly, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better hired professional. Our shows help you find your next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from people like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Dave Kibbolds, and Eddie Francis, as well as so many other of your favorite leaders in higher education. Enrollify is made possible by the support of Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.